Welcome to Building Insight. My name is Quentin Glenn. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Watson Installations and the Flooring Pros, alongside my co-host Amy Marecco.
Hello.
Today, our guest is Tim Marsh. He is a project executive for Mill Creek Residential and the president of let me make sure I get this right, the Professional Construction Estimators Association of North Carolina.
Very wordy.
Okay. Yep.
It is.
Is there like a good acronym for
PCEA.
that? PCEA.
But you always have to explain it because everyone's like, what is that?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So a lot of people already know. It's been around since 1956.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
It's established for sure.
It is, yeah.
Well, Tim, I appreciate you joining us here today. I would love to just kind of learn, project executive sounds very official.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about you, what you do, how
Sure.
you do it. Give me the rundown.
Yeah, so thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be here. Project executive. In my particular role with Mill Creek, we're a builder developer, so we're building apartments. That's all we build. Usually urban infill. We're 22 cities across the country. We've been in this market for probably, call it 5 or 6 years. I started in pre-construction. I was director of pre-con for about 2 years. Have spent the better part of my career on the operations side and was feeling the itch to get back on the operations side. Pre-con was great. Had previously spent about 4 years doing it with another company. Great experience, learned a ton that I've been able to take back to the operations side. So now as a project executive, I essentially have, 2 teams. Typically you'll manage 2 projects and essentially have 2 teams that I manage. So not really involved in the day-to-day, but involved in the day-to-day. So my teams kind of run the projects. I'm there as support. So making sure things are going the way they need to go. Mill Creek, we have a lot of process in order to make sure that the end product is what we want. So there's a lot of coaching and supporting there to make sure our teams have what they need, have the resources they need, and they're executing at the level Mill Creek wants.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Our passive cross somewhat. We've been on a couple of projects for you guys.
That's right.
Being a builder developer like Mill Creek is, that has its own, that's not the industry norm, right?
That's right.
So, are you guys like hanging on to your projects after everything's completed? Are you actively managing them thereafter? And what does that like handoff look like?
So yes and yes. It is a little different. I came from the third-party general contracting side, so, we built everything. When I worked for that company, Shield Sexton, great company.
Yep.
Builder, developer, very different. We have developers in-house that go out and find land. Pre-con figures out how much it's going to cost. We run the numbers, make sure that it's going to be, a profitable project to go and build and operate. Once we kind of get through that process, we go out to bid. We build the project in-house, so we have a full construction team that builds it. We have a full operations team that manages it and asset management. At some point, someone will come in and offer to buy the building, and then we'll transition. Sometimes we'll continue to operate, sometimes not.
Oh, nice. That's definitely a full circle model. Like it seems like it would be, if that was the lane that we were to go into, like I'd prefer that rather than just like hard bidding absolutely everything. You have your finger on a little bit more.
Gives you a lot of control.
Right.
We've got a lot of more, a lot more flexibility in kind of how we run our business, from the design side to materials that we're going to build with to, where we're going to be. We've got a lot more flexibility. We've got our own teams, and then we're handing it off to the asset team that is going to manage the building. So there's a lot of back and forth of, let's not do that next time. Let's make sure we're doing this, so that once they're operating the building, we're getting real-time feedback on how we should build the next building in order to improve that process.
How many buildings do you think you guys have right now?
Across the country, a lot.
A lot.
I mean, we were number 2 in the country in terms of size of units completed. We'll probably be in that 1, 2, 3 mold this year. We're continuing to grow, so obviously a little bit of a lull right now in the economy in terms of kind of multifamily, but we think that because of the growth in the process and the organization, we think that we'll continue to thrive and hope to be the largest multifamily builder developer in the country.
Nice.
That's amazing. Yeah. I know that the projects that we've bid for you guys have been definitely on the luxury side of things. Is that kind of your lane? Do you guys have a spread across?
We typically are on that higher end level of apartment complex. Urban infill typically warrants that. It's expensive to buy the land. It's expensive to build it. So typically you're going to have a higher finish product.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like how you worded that, higher finish.
Yeah.
I like that.
But it's, we will do other garden style apartments in residual markets. We're getting more into that. Yeah, I would say that historically speaking, Mill Creek has not done that. It's been more urban infill, but I think that as we've grown as a company, we see the opportunities in these residual markets, in the suburbs where we can go in and do more of a garden style, more of a workforce housing, so to speak, type of product. So we're doing a lot of that down in Texas. I think we'll get to that more here. Another revenue stream.
Yeah. It's all about where the money's right too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And I'm sure with, obviously the Fed cut interest rates last week, potentially more cuts here on the horizon throughout the end of the year. That bodes well for you guys.
I mean, we're very, very hopeful, that does increase. I think there is, from my experience and being involved in PCEA and just talking to different people, it sounds like there's a lot more activity on the pre-construction side where a lot of people, that's investors, that's banks, that's designers are starting to say, it's where the money is, right? They're the ones that are kind of driving the market. So I think there's more activity on their side, which is driving more design, which is driving more bidding, which ultimately should result in more projects that get closed and ultimately built.
Right. Awesome. Well, obviously, you mentioned the PCEA.
Yep.
Again, the Professional Construction Estimators Association of North Carolina.
Yes.
We, on our side of things, we're hiring estimators, like they're going out of style.
Yep.
Right. It's a commodity that, when we're bidding on projects, obviously, like the more efficient an estimator I have, the better product I can deliver to you, right?
Sure.
The less errors that are made,
That's right.
The better you guys are going to feel about it.
Yep.
So, we've kind of gone from an approach of like a spray and pray, like just, hire whoever's out there and, get as many dollars of bids out as you possibly can. And we've transitioned more towards like, let's find the real heavy lifters within the industry. I guess talk to me a little bit about the PCEA. What do you guys do, and how do I hire some of those estimators?
Yeah, so it's a great network of, it's a collection of construction professionals, right? So yes, we're an estimating networking group, but we've got architects, engineers, we have subcontractors, we have general contractors, builder developers. So by and large, yes, pre-construction guys are kind of the makeup of our group, but we do have a variety of different people in that group. Our sole mission is really, a lot of it's really, creating a community, right? Like having a place where we can kind of network once a month, get together, hang out. What are you looking at? What types of projects are you looking at? What's going on in the market? Are you busy? You're not busy? Just kind of catch up. We add an element of learning in our meeting. So we'll have a presentation once a month of a particular product, right? Something that may be new, cutting edge, could be software, could be building materials, just something that would add to someone that wants to learn and know more about kind of what's out there.
And other trades at that too.
Absolutely. And then we raise money. We raise probably $15,000 to $20,000 a year for scholarships.
Oh, nice.
Put that money back into the community. We're kind of going through a couple of different places where we're resourced that money. CPCC is one place that we have an endowment set up with them to where we give back to them X number of dollars, and then we're also working with The Rock here locally. They actually have kind of a school here in town for high school kids that kind of help them figure out what they want to do in the construction industry, and then they do it. Like they teach them estimating, they teach them construction. I mean, they have a big facility to where they do framing, they do mechanical, electrical, plumbing, you name it. They've got teachers and whatnot. So it's a pretty amazing group. Darren Ash runs that group.
Is that after high school?
That's
Or
in
during?
high school.
Oh, that's
So they
great.
kind of pull them over from the high
Yeah, that's
school.
nice.
They get all that training, and then they set them up for either a 2-year degree, if that makes sense. They set them up with internships. If they want to get a 4-year, they do that.
That's so nice.
So we're in the process of trying to partner with them to where we can kind of have them kind of handpick a kid, and try to support them all the way through college in a way that at the end, they get done, they go get a job, and it's like, wow, we had an impact, we made a
Yeah,
difference.
that's amazing. I love that.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, doing that type of thing for a community that you're, actively servicing
Yeah.
is, it's great. I mean, that one person may come back around and, be sitting across from you in an interview one day.
That's right.
So that's awesome. I didn't know that you guys went that direction with things. Now, as far as like, the trainings and like the materials that you guys go over in these types of meetings, I know one of the big conversations in my estimating department is the emergence of AI tools that come along with this. What's the general consensus from you guys over there? Like, is it a scary thing? Is it a, is it a,
I mean,
oh my gosh,
ultimately, yes, right? Like, I think we're all scared, right?
Sure.
What is AI going to do? I mean, in the short run, everyone's like, better, faster, quicker, move on to other things that I can tackle and do more. I think there's probably a lot of thought that needs to go into, 20, 30, 40 years when we're all gone. What's that going to look like? Because it is going to impact people's ability to make a living for themselves.
Right.
And
Right.
what that looks like. I don't think any of us really know what that's going to look like. But I would say that we're embracing it. We're trying to understand what it can do, what are the weaknesses of it. But as AI is, it's constantly learning.
Right.
So it's going to constantly get better and better and better and better. So there are some companies out there that have some pretty innovative products out there that really help with takeoff and make the whole process simpler, easier, faster, which in the short run can give you an opportunity to bid more work. But again, how accurate are they? There's the downside of how well do you really know the job. If you're having a computer do all the estimating, you
100%.
don't really you haven't learned it. You don't really know it. So I think that has a critical impact on a project that you may have won because you got all the numbers right and AI told you what it was, and it's like, all right, I don't really know exactly other than studying blueprints and all of those things. But
Right.
part of that pre-construction process of learning a job and then bidding it and asking all the right questions, is important.
Right.
I mean, it sets you up to kind of, hand that off to your construction team and the job well. You've got a lot of confidence going in. So kind of going down that rabbit hole of concern with AI, but obviously I think a lot of people will ultimately embrace it because I do think there are some major efficiencies that could, help our industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, we paid a bucket of money for a takeoff tool.
Yep.
I'm not going to name it because I'm not happy
Sure.
with it. But but I mean, a lot of the points that you're talking about are like front and center to what my concerns are with it. Obviously we do flooring, but we do everything that goes along with, any flooring material. Like we'll put tile on the walls, right? And I think again, like those are, that's a huge money making activity for us. This particular software can't handle that. It can't recognize those things. It's not, it's not good at drawing patterns. It, it can only deal with what's actually on the floor.
Yeah, the vertical piece has, I think, been a challenge with that, like exteriors. I think it really struggles with kind of figuring out takeoffs on vertical exteriors. And like you're saying, if you've got wall product that you're looking at as well.
And then, as you're going through the takeoff, like inevitably there's that moment where, for a multifamily, it's like, we got 300 units. Yes, it copies and pastes and does all that kind of stuff. But like you zoom in on one bathroom and, you're missing 8 square feet. And then, by the time we get out into the field, when we're installing that bath, I mean, we're not going to recognize until the very last bathroom, and then it's all of a sudden we look silly to our client, and it's it's a whole thing. And then contrary, to what you're saying, we feel that we do our best work when our estimators are intimately involved with the project. I would say the majority of the bids that we win are because that knowledge base is illustrated on the scope review side of things. You know what I mean? So, I think there's definitely a long way to come with it. But, again, I was just kind of curious what the general feel is, because, we got really excited. Right?
Yeah.
We're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. And then to see it actually I have to train my estimators to be able to help the AI.
Yeah.
So,
I think it'll help us really with a lot of the counting, right? Like we do a lot of takeoff, even when we send it out to subs. We'd like to at least have numbers in-house that we kind of can compare and know kind of what's in the job. So for us, I think it'll help us in terms of being able to collect that data and then obviously comparing that again. So I think, again, it's got a ways to go, but I do think it'll help us at least get through that process faster, so where we can focus on more of the design conflicts and exteriors of the building and details in the drawings and things like that ultimately are probably a little bit more important. Obviously the numbers are important, but that more mundane in terms of counting, if we can get that offloaded onto an AI software, it will really help us kind of speed up the process.
Sure. Now, obviously, again, you mentioned design, and those two pieces work hand in hand with estimating and design. I guess what level of crossover is like a healthy crossover in your mind, right? Because like we have estimators who have no problem making recommendations on a lot of these things, right? But sometimes design tries to hold things real nice and cozy. So what do you think?
Yeah, so we're pretty aggressive, like. We're based on our experience. It's pretty typical that you get this beautiful interior design package, and then we have to go in and VE it, make changes to it because they have an Italian tile that's $150 a square foot, whatever, just something super expensive. Where like that makes zero sense. Why would we do that? Some of it comes down to quantities, right? If it's a small quantity, not that big a deal, we can fit it into the project, but we do a lot of due diligence with the ID team to really dig in and really challenge them. They don't like it. It's always this is what we do. We know what we're doing. It takes away from the effect. But what we try to do is rely on you guys to come in and say, hey, look, this product is great. This one is very similar, if not the same. Let's just swap it out. You'll save $10 a square foot. And we'll get it done. So again, being that builder developer where we're in house, much easier to do than if you're a third party GC. They give you a set of plans, you price it. Some guys, if they have enough time, will go through that exercise of trying to VE stuff out for their client. But for us, we're always trying to drive costs down. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, again, one of the things I've noticed is. When we go out and bid projects, the more we interact with not only the estimating and like the project team, but like really getting in close with the design team, like that's where the stickiness happens for us.
That's right.
I always tell everybody across all lines of our business is like, you need to be able to create advocates within the company that you're trying to work for. Right. So, trying to push those relationships with the designers, while simultaneously trying to, play the other side of the coin with the estimating team.
Yeah. For us, we encourage that. Like if we can, as we kind of do more and more of these projects, especially in the Charlotte market, ideally you get a handful of subs that you like working with, you develop those relationships. Typically, we use similar design teams on each project, not always the same, but we try to have a smaller group, not, try to relearn new design teams every time. So organically, what will happen is that you're going to develop those relationships, like you're saying, to where a subcontractor can pick up the phone, have a quick conversation, keep, Mill Creek in the loop, but make it happen a little faster. There's that trust that you've built with the ID team and with you guys to where it's like it becomes more natural just to happen, and it makes them comfortable, and then kind of move it along, because oftentimes it gets kind of bogged up because Mill Creek becomes the middleman. We're going back and forth, and sometimes you never get anywhere, which is frustrating.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's one of the, I mean, obviously one of the benefits of you guys being a builder developer, right? It's like you get to control that.
That's right.
No, that's awesome. Now, you spoke on, developing those relationships. And again, that's another luxury being a builder developer. Like you can choose who you want to work with, when you want to work with them. Obviously you have your budgets that are set for these types of things, but you can pull and make concessions based on, obviously what the need is for that type of thing. So, circling back into, your relationship with the PCEA, what importance in your opinion is there within like that networking community? Like how are the relationships formed there, and how critical is that to your business, or not at all?
No, it absolutely is. I mean, I think construction is a relationship business. I think, the more you can be out there and talking to people and, building that rapport, it's going to get much easier to do these projects and work with them. I mean, I think it's critical. I mean, that's a big part of, my experience in construction. I spend a lot of time trying to build and develop those relationships, because it's much easier to have a conversation, pick up the phone when you have those, when you don't.
Especially if it's a tough one.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. So, I guess like where do you see the growth within estimating over the next couple of years? Is there like a particular trade that you see is exploding? Is there, a particular style or a particular software? Again, like you being on the inside, like I'm just curious kind of what you see as the future.
I'm not going to plug Procore, but I feel like Procore is
everybody loves Procore. Everybody loves Procore.
I feel like Procore is getting to the point where they're kind of going to be in a position to where they have everything in-house. Like everything's going to be under one roof. I think estimating could be a big part of that, which leads to, your bidding process, which leads to your accounting process, which leads to your project management, which leads to operations. So I feel like they're building this monster ultimately to where everything can live under one roof. So there's that in terms of estimating, and I don't know that there's one particular direction that it's going. I think it is harder and harder to find qualified people out there in the market, as I'm sure you well know. A lot of people just don't go that direction in construction. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of value in having a really good pre-construction guy, at least for us, and that goes from site to concrete to all the trades. To have that vast experience from beginning to end is really hard to find, and then understand how all those parts and pieces go together, how you can save money and do different things with the design to make it all work. I don't know if that really answers your question.
No, it does. Again, not to be a plug for Procore, but I remember when I first got into the industry, I was sitting down with the owner of our company.
Sure.
And I'm like, wouldn't it be amazing if we could have a software that, can take things from the estimate and get it passed through to the procurement side, that also, gets passed through to the inventory management, so that we can handle the logistics and, we can do billing out of this and this. And he's like, dude, that's Procore. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. And we're trying to, obviously being the sub, we're trying to do things in our own way. We're utilizing a, full tech stack to, kind of tie pieces into each other. But like our ability to be able to like flex into what our clients use is critical, right? Like if, not to make it like too simple of an analogy, but if you got an iPhone and I got an Android, like you don't want the green bubbles coming up.
That's right.
Right. So our ability to be able to, be malleable to the client is, critical for us getting the job, and it's critical for you guys selecting us for the job, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely creating the platform to where most, if not all, are going to operate under that just because it's so efficient. Now, granted, there's competition out there, and they'll continue to be, but I think obviously they're the kind of the leading edge of that direction. And once they get it right, I think it's gonna create a lot of efficiencies. Like, I mean, to your point, I just think that you're not having to learn a different program on every client that you're working with. It's Procore. It's everyone kind of comes in kind of knowing how it works, and then off you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess just kind of circling back and asking about you and how you got to this point.
Sure.
I have family members who are in the construction industry. Yep. Obviously everybody wants to move up the ladder. Like, you took the pre-con route. And in our business, like, I'm really like hammering it into my pre-con team that this is a really good way for you guys to just like accelerate your career. So, I guess, how did you get to this point, and like, what's next for you?
Great question. So yeah, I mean, interesting background in that, I started, I had a degree in political science, so construction wasn't even on the radar probably until I got done with college.
I was a linguistics major, so I feel you on that.
Yeah. So, it was, it was crazy. I got done with school and, went out to DC, did the DC thing, really contemplated politics and all of those things. And it just didn't set right with me. Had a little bit of a sports background, so thought about sports management, realized that being $50,000 in debt and a clunker of a car, that, going that route wasn't going to pay bills, and the opportunities just weren't there that kind of came up with construction. So this was probably early 2000s. Home building had a big boom. A company, NV, Ryan Homes, they build all over the country. They were hiring kids out of college. We'll train you from the ground up. We'll teach you everything you need to know. We'll put you through the training. You'll be in the field managing communities, and then you kind of just work your way up through the company. So initially, I turned him down out of college, said, nope, I'm good. I'm going to chase the sports. Year later, things weren't progressing, or more so the salary that I could earn wasn't progressing fast enough, and just could kind of see that this is going to be really tough for me to really make a good living. So went back to him, said, hey, look, I'd love to another shot at this thing if you'll have me. So they hired me and really started in that residential side of the business. So spent about 8 years with between them and Pulte Homes. Essentially a project superintendent. So I'm out in the field managing homes, delivering homes to every type of homeowner you can imagine. So really getting a really good crash course on people management and learning personalities and how to deal with people, as well as obviously just a very, learning construction on the house side of the business. So 2008 gets really, not quite 2008, but it was fast approaching. Housing started to slow. I started looking, just thinking about doing something different. Had been doing residential for quite some time. Really wanted to look at commercial. Had an opportunity with Shill Sexton. Jumped on with them, which residential and commercial are very different. So kind of started over in terms of learning that process, and worked with them for a number of years in project management. So started as a project engineer, and then just kind of worked my way up to senior project manager. Ultimately moved here to the Charlotte market where they had an office, and then took a pre-con position, director of pre-con. Was doing that with them for about 3 years, and then had the opportunity with Mill Creek. So it's kind of the timeline of things, of how it evolved and developed. What's next? We'll see. I mean, I love where I'm working, love Mill Creek. Great opportunity. I think there's a ton of opportunity kind of moving forward as we're somewhat new to this market. I think we have great leadership, great people, getting a great opportunity to teach and learn the next generation of people coming up, both at the superintendent level and project management level. So continuing to do that, work with our operations team and development team, and creating great places to live for the people in Charlotte.
One of the things that that has come up a couple of times in our conversations, just something I want to hammer home myself, is the importance of the training and the development. Like, Ryan Holmes took a shot on you.
Sure.
Right. And now here we are talking about, the largest footprint of, multifamily homes in the country.
Sure.
Right. Obviously the scholarship that you're talking about with the PCEA and, what that opportunity could mean for any one particular person. And I know that, one of our core values for our company is self-development. Like, always be learning, always be, trying to, put more tools in your tool belt.
That's right.
And it sounds like, that was integral to, to your progression. So,
yeah, I mean, starting with, Ryan Holmes, I think, there's always been, every place I've been with great companies, been very fortunate to have the opportunities I've had. Every stop along the way has been very focused on training and getting continual training, whether it be safety or, how the buildings go together. Process is always a big deal in terms of, the right processes and making sure that things are getting built the right way with a high quality. But yeah, I think absolutely from a training perspective, at least, even, where I am now, it's critical. We always talk about it. We're always talking about getting better every day. I think that's a little bit of the draw to construction is you're always learning. No one knows everything. Yes, you can be, I guess, quote unquote, an expert at some point, but there's always going to be a new challenge on every project that you're going to have to figure out. So you're always learning new things. But yeah, I mean, we spend a ton of time on training, whether it be safety training, process training. In PCEA, I think it's great. Some of the things that we have come in to do presentations on, you're learning how things come together. You're able to ask the guys that, that are building it or offering products on why it does this or that, or get a lot of information that you typically wouldn't get, just out there in the field building.
Yeah,
absolutely. I love that.
So one of the, again, you mentioned going from, residential and single family homes.
Yep.
Now we're doing multifamily. Commercial, again, is very different than residential. We work with a large national builder developer.
Yep.
Doing single family homes. We also do like heavy commercial work, right?
Sure.
I mean, we're doing a car dealership right now. Hundreds of thousands of square feet of tile.
Yeah.
Right. Which, I mean, multifamily is kind of in that like middle space.
It is.
Right. So with your experience on both ends of that, I'm assuming you gravitated towards multifamily because it's kind of in that middle space.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that happened, right? Like
Yeah.
if you think about it, it's kind of a mesh between the two.
Right.
In terms of the projects we build. We do a lot of podiums, so there's a lot of heavy concrete work, a lot of site work. There's a lot of commercial components, but then you also have the wood components, and the finishes and the units are very similar to my experience on the residential side. So it's kind of crazy that, I landed in this kind of a mesh of the two types of construction. And I like both.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I enjoyed both experiences and gained a lot of knowledge and experience with both of them, which is really, I think, helping me kind of progress in the current position I'm in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. If you have one piece of advice for, a 30-year-old project manager out there schlepping it in the field every single day, what would you say is kind of your words of wisdom, having been on that side and, now looking at it from the outside in?
Yeah, tough question. There's lots of things for advice, but I think it's first and foremost. I think to be in this industry, you have to have a strong work ethic. I think this isn't a profession that you're going to get into where you think you're going to be on easy street at any point ever. You've got to like to work. You got to want to work. Put the time in. But if you have a growth mindset, and you want to grow and learn and be a leader, I think construction, gives that opportunity probably sooner than a lot of other industries because It's really one of those industries that if you take it and run with it, people are going to let you go, assuming you work for the right types of managers. They're going to let you grow and learn and learn and learn. So just keeping that in mind, that don't try to get to the top just so that you can be on quote unquote easy street or have an easier position, because there's no such thing. But I just think that put the time in, have a growth mindset, learn every day, ask questions from the people that are have been in the industry a long time, try to get better, and the rest will honestly take care of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, that will play out if you have that mindset. Don't come in with this attitude of I know everything, I've got it figured out, you do what I say. And that goes across the board with designers and subcontractors. We got to treat people like human beings. We've got to work together. But I would say kind of on that growth mindset and work ethic, those are the two, I think, critical components that will drive success in this industry.
Yeah, that's
100%.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it doesn't get easier the higher up you move.
No.
I definitely know that. So
More complicated, more nuanced.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Well, Tim, it's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed our conversation here today. Again, thank you for joining us. My name is Quentin Glenn, Amy Marecco. This is Tim Marsh, and thank you for joining us on Building Insight.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Good job.